Gouache can be tricky to blend, but it can be done extremely well, like in Bao Pam's gorgeous work. He paints skin that is effortlessly blended and looks like oil paint. Or it can be subtle with solid colors that touch, like in Heather N. Martin's work. She makes the illusion of blending a lot of her work by just putting the different values of color next to each other. This is also a form of visual blending and has a different feeling to it. It's very easy to do. You can do with layering by waiting for the first layer to dry and then just subtly changing the value and adding the next one. Here I did it by gradually mixing more black into the paint with each layer. Or it can be done by just putting them next to each other, like in this example. The trick is to let the first layer dry before adding the next one next to it. I'm using more paint and less water so that it dries quickly, and I can add more once it's dry. As you can see, you can vary your colors subtly, but try to keep the value changes gradual unless you're adding shadows or highlights for a more blended look. This is one of the easiest ways to blend and can make for alive pieces. The great thing about gouache is since it's water soluble, you can blend it anytime, even after your piece is dry, by just using a little water or the color in between the two that are touching. So you're never stuck with any one way of blending and can vary it and rework it at any time in your piece. Practice this yourself if you're interested in this kind of blending. Now, if you want to do seamless blending that looks more like gradients, grab your paints and let's get right into it. This is my personal favorite way of doing it. Pick a color and start off with white gouache. Then pick up a tiny bit of paint and mix it with the white and add that on. Keep doing this by gradually adding a little more color and painting right next to your last one. Notice how gradual the color shift is and how seamless, since we're doing this with the previous layers touching and they're still wet. The trick is not to use too much water because then it can run through all the paint and blend too much. But we are using more water than the previous exercise. It's just a fine balance. If you want cool textures and the paint to travel more and blend more and be more loose, you can use more water. If you want it to be more smooth and accurate without any texture like for realism, use less water. Just make sure to make the value changes more gradual. It's up to your personal style, so play with it and see what you like more. Once you get back to your original color, you can try this out with any color you like by just blending the new color with the old color and painting with that and placing the new color like I did with the purple. But if you skip this step and just pick up a color that's completely different like I did here, they will blend a little since it's still wet, but it's not seamless, more like just fuzzy edges that are touching, since it's not gradual value change. Another way you can do this is to put the new color next to it and then mix the colors between the two and paint it in. My point is, there are a ton of ways to do this. It's up to you what you'll prefer to do the most. This technique is great for doing bigger areas and for detail work. Let's see it in action with diverse colors. I painted these vibrant but different colors next to each other, and now let's see if we can blend them. I start with a clean brush and just try to blend where they touch. This helps, but as you can see, I need more yellow because there's too much green here, so I pick some up and blend it out even more. I do the same thing on the green side. I'm just eyeballing it and seeing what colors I need to blend in more to make it more gradual until it looks right. I have the freedom to do this at any time, even if it's dry. I can use this technique with the rest very easily, but if you want more control if the second color is very different, like in this case, with it being black, you can leave space between your colors and then mix the two colors on your blending tray and then paint it in the middle and blend as you normally would. You could also use less water and just paint each stroke by gradually changing the color right next to it or slightly overlapping. This is also an easy way to blend, but because you're using less water, the strokes will be more visible and the colors will blend into each other less. My advice is to get a scrap piece of paper and test out these techniques and to see what works best for you. Play around with how much water you have on your brush, or if you do stroke by stroke gradually, or blend on the page by adding more, or if you want to wait for it to fully dry before blending, or even just using a dry brush. The possibilities really are endless, and you just need to find your favorite way of doing it. Now let's see what we learned being put to action with some 3D spears.